Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Brave TV. I'm Jen Marshall, and I'm joined by Kasey Maher. And Kasey, you've been with us so much over the last 2 years, thankfully helping us through this pandemic, because I don't know what we would have done without, like, yoga Fridays were so much fun. And just all the stuff I learned, I still tap back into things. I'm telling you, like, if I have a tough night sleeping, I will pull out the Yoga Nidra video.
Mm.
And so everyone knows, they're all saved on our Instagram under the IGTV. I pop my earbuds in and listen to your voice to help me fall asleep, and it's amazing. So thank you.
Well, I'm so grateful you always ask me to be a part of it. So it's been an honor and a pleasure. Always is.
Well, so this is a special episode because it's my last Brave TV.
Oh, right.
So it's bittersweet, but I'm so excited about the future of This Is My Brave. It's going places. And as someone who, started it and led it for 8 years, I'm just in awe of where we've gone, and can't wait to see where it continues to go and grow. And Aaron and Katie and the team, and they'll be adding to the team. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. So, and next year, the return to the stage. So well anticipated return
Yeah.
to the stage, much anticipated. So,
Well, it's so
um,
exciting to see. And just, I know it must have been such a difficult decision for you, but, and we can actually directly from that segue into what we were going to talk about, because that had to be such a difficult decision for you going for, like, knowing when to step down
yeah,
and to when to transition your life and like we're going to bring that into like a kind of a holiday boundary like conversation, and that had to have been a hard one because like what we had just said was one of the hardest thing about boundaries and like setting certain things with certain people is that you and I both try to do 95 things,
mhm,
but we know we can only do 10 well. So I
yes,
don't even know what that would have been like to be like, okay, so I have to step down, because sometimes boundary setting can make it feel like I'm like a bit of a failure because I can't do it all and I can't please everybody and I can't make everything happen. So I don't know. I'm just proud of you for doing it because you created something so phenomenally. And then it's like you knew exactly when to step and go on
well,
to your next journey.
you read my mind when you just said all the things about wanting to do all the things and not
Yeah.
having time. And there's only so many hours in the day. And
Right.
the biggest reason for stepping down is that I have this book inside of me that
Yeah.
is dying to come out, and it's been coming out on pages I've been
Right.
writing, but slowly, and without having my full attention to dedicate to it, it's been impossible to
Mhm.
get it done. So I
Yeah.
wanted to, you nurture something till it gets to a certain point, and then I just knew that it was the right time with the growth of our scaling plans with Brave Academy, and how Aaron led the development of it. Katie supported, and just in
Mhm.
such a good place. And I saw that coming down the pipeline, and I was just, I was fortunate to predict a good time to step
Yeah.
down. So yeah,
But I
it's,
think it was a brave, no pun intended, choice on your part. And so what we were wanting to discuss today is just how people are going to cope through the holidays with either boundaries or with it being here already. Like we talked about that. I can't believe it's going to be December 1st in a few days. Like it feels like I can't even express how fast it came. Like I was
and the
putting up my
holidays are,
vibrations and I'm like, what?
they're going
It,
to be
it,
here, right? I mean, we just went through Thanksgiving, and now,
yeah,
yeah, not that much time left till Christmas and the holidays. And oh gosh, it's a little overwhelming to think about, but let's get into boundaries. Let's
it
talk
is.
about this, because I suck at them. I will be
I
honest.
well, you sent me an email and I just laughed out loud. And I was like, you suck at them. I mean, I like so much. I mean, like I've read books about them. I've been in therapy about it. Like because back up about me is I grew up with an alcoholic father, and that's where my people pleasing began. It's like what I knew as a child. So
Mm,
boundaries were not a thing. And some of the abuse from my childhood set up the fact that I didn't set up boundaries for my body and certain things. And so boundaries are just really hard for me. And I think that I get extremely frustrated when I'm out in the yogic world or the self-help world and people just are like, well, so you do this, this, and this. And, and God loved Brene Brown. And I think she even has like a saying, it's like braving, B-R-A-V something. And it's all about boundaries. And I've tried it. And I'm like, awful. But I do, one thing that I figured out from being so terrible at it is coined the term, this could be a term, we didn't Google it to check out and see, is when you do set a boundary, and it's funny because you and I both talked about this before we got on, I'll set some form of a boundary up and I will immediately feel hungover as if I had 4 cocktails, like, and I have had none. So I don't drink them before I make the boundary. It's just my body feels like I feel sick or nauseous or like my stomach's in knots. And we were saying how we kind of figured out that during that is when I know that my boundary might hurt somebody else's feeling, or somebody could perceive it as differently, or take it the wrong way or whatever it is.
Case, do you think it's because maybe like, has it always been the case for you, or is it more recent as you've been maybe flexing your boundary setting, like doing it more often? Do you feel like, and as we get stronger at setting those boundaries, do you think the hangover part will go away?
It becomes less. I will say it has become less, but at least here's what I always say. When I finally know something I'm experiencing and I've named it, and I say like I know that's what I'm feeling. Like once I knew I was feeling grief, once I knew I was feeling anger, once I knew that that was a response from trauma, it becomes easier for me to manage it. So when the feeling comes up, I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll either be like, I can't nurture the other person's response. I can do the best I can at saying what's going on. And then if that person then personalizes it and turns it into something else, then that's on their part. But same with me, is when I know that other people have set up boundaries with me. And I've been like, oh, well, they must not really like me. And then I'm like, oh, well, you're personalizing it. They probably just,
have something they have to get done, or they're
just really good at boundaries. And one thing is like, there's been several people in my life who are really good at boundaries. And to be quite honest, at the end of the day, after I had a lot of therapy, I was jealous. That's nice. How nice is that? You get to set up a boundary. And do you feel bad about it? I don't know. Do you? Like, because like if they don't, I'm like, you don't have like a 45-minute conversation with yourself after about how maybe you shouldn't have set that boundary up? Like, phenomenal. So then it was envy and it was jealousy. And knowing that has made it more manageable to do it. I wish the hangover would go away, but at the end of the day, I like for people to be happy. I don't like to hurt people's feelings. So I could say this, if I do set something up, I will now say more boldly, hey, this has nothing to do with you. I'm either really exhausted or I really need to do or I'll give some background to it. So it doesn't come across as, that's what people.
And does that lessen the hangover for you?
It does. Because I feel like it's the people pleasing way of being like, hey, I really want to do this. It's like Alexis from Schitt's Creek. Like I always feel like I need to be like, oh, okay. Like I'm gonna do the best, but I can't. If you're okay with it, everything good.
Yeah, exactly.
And that has made it a bit easier for me. And naming
but
it out loud.
Also reminding yourself, like, you don't have to explain yourself to people, like, because I just recently, declined an invitation and felt bad, and felt a little bit of the hangover, but I also felt like good for you for setting that boundary,
right?
And knowing that you're overextending yourself. Like, you can't do everything. Again, going back to like, you wanted to do everything. The holidays are coming up. There's going to be party invitations because hopefully this year parties are starting to come back. But like you can't do it all. And so knowing when to say no, and not taking it personally yourself too, right? Like going easy on yourself.
I think it's hard too, because I personalize things and I'm a people pleaser. And like, again, like my therapist told me years and years ago when I was 18, she was like, no one thinks about you as much as you think they do. And
Yes,
that's
I
true.
love that saying. It's so true.
It's so true. And if somebody is thinking about me way too much, then God bless it. Wait, don't. Like, because I'm like a conundrum. Don't try to figure me out. I'm sorry. Like, but it's so for all of the people out there, we wanted to have this conversation because we wanted everybody else to be like, oh, that's what that feeling is.
Exactly,
So you
exactly.
find now a little bit of comfort during the holidays when you set your boundaries and you're like, what is this nauseated feeling? And it's the beginning process of like getting to know what it feels like to really stand up for yourself or to really do things for yourself. And we talk about self-care and all of those things, and really starting to do stuff like that isn't all like sunshine and rainbows. Like, it's hard.
Mhm.
And it's
It's not.
harder during the holidays. And I think this year it's going to be harder because we are going to expect ourselves to do everything because we couldn't do anything.
Exactly.
And everybody needs to remember this. And I try to talk about this in front of all of my friends and family if I can, is we dealt with a large trauma that a lot of us are dealing with and a lot of us aren't dealing with. And that our society, we just went right back into everything extremely quickly. So to personalize a lot of things and boundaries and to notice people's reactions, like, all I'm trying to do is give others a little bit more grace than usual.
Mhm,
It's not easy,
mhm.
but I'm trying to give myself more grace and everybody else more grace, because underneath the planning of Christmas or whatever it is, or Hanukkah or whatever you're celebrating, people are still experiencing a ton of anxiety
Yeah,
from this pandemic.
yep.
And so I need to remind myself of that when I'm dealing with other people, because sometimes in my head, I'll be like, oh, okay. But I had to remember, like, we need to remember that grace,
Yeah,
um, because we all have it right now and we're not expressing it as much.
yeah. No, I agree
And we're
completely.
exhausted.
We just went through it as a family with my husband having COVID, and it was
Yeah.
scary, and
Mhm.
he's still trying to get better from it. And it's just, we have to just be gentle and take our time getting
Yeah.
back out there doing things. And um yeah, it's going to be another tough holiday, but we'll get through it. And in fact,
Well,
you were telling me about your one of the ways you cope, which I think is brilliant, and it works for me too.
so
So
yeah, so the only thing, whenever you sent me all of your points that we could talk about, you were like, suggestion, and I was like, I only have one. I wish I wish I had like all six or five, and I was like, I only got one. I would like
but you
it.
can use it in all scenarios. That's the great thing about
It really does. It's a one-stop shop.
one stop shop.
Um, but it is during the winter or cold, like fall through winter. Everybody in New England is always like, "Oh, it must be so hard for you to transition from Texas to here." And I'm like, "Oh my God, no!" It was like I was steaming hot, and like when I got here, my body finally settled into the coolness. So I literally will, if I'm having any form of anxiety or panic, or I have a boundary hangover, I will go sit outside in the freezing weather, and I will bundle up enough to where I can still feel it. So I don't like, I don't put on like a full on ski outfit. I'll just put on like my jacket, my winter jacket. And if it's snowing, it's even better, because
Mm,
I just lay in the ground and my body, everything completely stabilizes within about 2 to 5 minutes.
I love that.
It literally melts away. So if you think about it as anxiety or your worry or your whatever it is, it's heating up your body and causing all of that. The counteract of it would be to cool off. And I'm such an advocate for being out in nature. I just think it's Mother Earth's like way to do it. Now you could go lie in a cold bath, like if you happen to live in a very hot
Yep.
place, which brings us up to what you were going to we were going to probably put in the notes or something
Yeah.
about um
Wim Hof.
yes.
Yeah. So his breathing technique is pretty cool.
Mhm.
And it really does center you and brings down anxiety. And it's a, you can just look him up on YouTube and do the tutorial, and it's quick and easy, and it's
Yeah,
another tool to have in your toolbox. But the greatest thing about Kasey's suggestion is that you can do it anywhere. And
you can do it anywhere. You can,
I
and you
mean,
can find cool, like, here's another thing that I do, during the summer when I can't, when there's no snow, is I'll do just like 2 minutes of cold water coming out of the shower, and it can stabilize you. And it
so
really does. Or if you're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, or you just set a boundary and you're like, then you go jump in. Like, and that was like one of his things that he did originally. I think when he developed his breathing techniques was that he was going out and swimming like in Iceland or something, you know?
and he would sit in like frigid temperatures with like
Yeah.
snow falling, and he would breathe, and he'd have like warm, like a puddle around him, because he
Yeah.
would heat up the, yeah.
Definitely research him, but that is one of the only techniques I can think of that it really stabilizes me during the holidays. And I've done it before going to events. I've done it before going, because during the holidays, at least, like when you're maybe going to have a difficult time, or what might be a hard thing to say no, or
Well, I was just going to say, is it's a great technique you can use, like when you do end up saying yes to going to that
right,
party that you're like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, you end up saying yes. Take that escape like a couple times during the party, get
right,
outside and
right.
get that fresh air and get that cold air.
Good. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a great, yeah, you can do that. I mean, it's anywhere. It's accessible. You're at a party and you're like, pardon me, can I pop in your shower? I gotta cool off. Does anybody else need a break? When I say that, one of the things about myself that I will say that I think it was very hard for me to ever say things that I actually loved about myself and things that I did well. But things that I think I can actually do well is, for no pun intended, are icebreakers in that sense. Like, if I can sense something's happening and I'm like in the middle and I'm like, so does anybody need to pop in, take a cold shower, cool them off? Maybe we're getting a little too hot, heated. Are we? Anybody else feel that? No, just me? Okay. Like sometimes even like having the joke of like, throwing it out there that this is how you feel, there's
yeah,
definitely somebody else at your family table or your group table that's going to be like, oh my God, yes.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have a 45-minute conversation about Wim Hof and everything's fine.
There you go.
you
I
know?
mean, you never know. It's like boundaries are tough. I think that the more, even just having the conversation with your friend, your girlfriends, your
Yep.
friends about like, how hard they are, can really maybe just open the door. Because I feel like I've had conversations like that with my friends, and it's made it easier for us. And
And honesty, like I said, like you and I were talking about how sometimes we feel like we have to explain ourselves, and
yeah,
I don't have to give like, the 2-page essay of why everything's happening, but just to give a PSA of like, hey guys, like right now it's like, I'm kind of going through a lot. Like, I've had a big transition. I've started back working, and like I've had a huge transition in my life. So it doesn't have anything other to do with the fact that I'm going through a transition. And there's a lot going on in my life. And I did that, and I said it to several of my friends, and it's so much better being upfront,
yeah,
I think, in a minimalistic way, that let people know, like, hey, like the gifts might suck this year. I'm probably gonna forget things. Like, so much of that. And then just to acknowledge that, again, we're all still grieving. Like,
yeah,
remember grief during the holidays. Remember that, like, for people that are close to me, I'm like, just don't forget, like, I know that my mom and dad died a very long time ago, but the
mhm,
the pain of it doesn't ever go away.
yeah,
So I'm still going to be feeling it. So if I say no to something or do something that's out of character, like, I apologize in advance. Like, I'm not going to try to use a get out of jail free card every time something like that happens. But remember that. Try to remember that about other people, and
yep. Give
do
each
that. We're
other
all trying
grace.
to do our best,
Exactly. I
you know.
agree.
One other thing is, and we didn't talk about this, but I did just say this the other day while I was at school
But
with like a second grader that came in, and how I love a good mudra.
yes.
Mudras, right? I
Yeah.
forgot about this one. Is I am okay. I am
Oh,
I am okay.
That's
And you
why,
can,
yeah, 4 fingers.
yeah, I am okay. I am okay. And
I
you
love
kind of
it.
just like say it, and you can do it with anything. Like even like if it's like the hangover thing, the boundary hangover. Sometimes I'm like, I am okay.
I
Or
teach
like
my
I
kids
deserve a break. I deserve a break.
Yeah, you can make up all your own.
Make it like
Make it your own.
like
Yeah,
make it your own.
so good, Case. Oh my God, you always have these.
Or like you could do like 10. It doesn't have to be 4. You could be like, I deserve healthy boundaries. All of mine are happening to be 4 right now. But I don't know why all of a sudden,
You're
but
so
I
good.
deserve healthy boundaries. And like
Yes.
we do. And it's not about like everybody else. It's just like I deserve to have these I do. I
Yeah.
deserve to be able to do it and to even say like, so though that is something that I think helps.
So
And those you can do like underneath the table. Nobody knows you're doing it. You don't have to ask the party person if you can borrow their shower. You can maybe just go
there
in.
you go. I love it.
Yeah.
I deserve healthy boundaries, and give yourself the gift of healthy boundaries this season.
Yeah.
That's
And don't compare yourself to anybody else out there who has them, because everybody else has a certain reason why they can have them and can't have them.
Mhm.
That, like some people are really good at them. And like, then some people like myself suck at them really bad. Like just try your hardest. We don't know why some things are easier for others and harder for ourselves. Just like go internally and be like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I'm going to do. And I might have a hangover, but here's a few things I can do to help with that. And then, as a joke, as a side note for drinking during the holidays, those 2 things also help if you're hungover. I am okay. And going to lay in the ice really kind of helps too. I don't suggest drinking too much during the holidays. I'm sure I will, but that does help.
Yeah, exactly. I love
you
it.
just stabilize yourself and you remember.
Yeah.
You're
so good. I love everything you teach me. You've taught me so much.
You've taught me so much.
No,
You've taught me that I'm never alone. Thank you. That's the biggest thing you did. You taught me that I was never alone, and you gave me a stage, which I've been dying to be on since I was a kid. So it's been phenomenal. Everything that you've done has been amazing. And I know it hasn't been you by yourself, but you seem to connect with the people that can lift you a certain way and you lift them. And, I hope that as you go on to your next journey, I've told you this many times, I hope I'm a part of it in some way, shape, or form, because I think it's just going to be phenomenal. And, everybody else out there, like, we hope your holidays are filled with whatever they can be filled with it. And don't make your expectations too high.
Exactly. And use these tips that we talked about. Because you are okay.
Yep. We are okay. One day at a time. That was 5. Finally, I messed it up. Thank God. Everything was working out too
Kasey, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for asking me to be on you with your last one. That's an honor and I'm a privilege. So thank you so much. And I really hope that this has helped a lot of people, but more so really, again, as all of our things are, it just makes me feel less alone.
Yeah.
So when I feel less alone, I just feel better.
Yes. Don't we all? That's the goal, is we're in this together. So, well, thanks again. Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.